Republican congressman from North Carolina, retired Green Beret and member of the House Armed Services Committee, Pat Harrigan. Congressman, thanks so much for joining the show.
Rick, thanks for having me tonight. Good to be with you.
One of these Chinese nationals is said to be a loyal member of the Chinese Communist Party. How does this not set off red flag warnings? How are Chinese researchers gaming the vetting process to gain entry into the U.S.?
Well, part of the problem is it really doesn't matter whether they're a member of the Chinese Communist Party or not. We have to understand that every single citizen of China is a potential spy in this country. And I hate to say that, right, because there's so many well-meaning Chinese who want to be here, who like our system of governance. But the reality is when you have a wholly authoritarian and completely coercive government that controls every single part of your life, whether it's your financial life, whether it's your ability to travel, whether it is the safety and security of your family back home, they can get you to do whatever they want you to do. That's what we have to understand. That's why President Trump has been so vigorously pushing a policy to revoke these educational visas, because the reality is we just don't know.
Well, at Congress, and the sheer volume of Chinese students being allowed into America invites abuse of the system. There's no way that we can know everything we should know about 270,000 people we're letting in from a communist country. So I don't think this is being overblown. I think it's being undersold. Like, there should be a lot more outrage and a lot more interest in who we're letting in and what they might be doing while they're here.
I couldn't agree more, Rick, and I've been saying this since I got to Congress. We need to take a broad-based approach in review. And honest to goodness, we should not have a single Chinese national in any one of our research universities or our national laboratories, period. It is simply too big of a risk that this country cannot account for, because the number and the scale is just so large. And China is not a friend of the United States. They are absolutely willing to do anything that they can possibly do to undermine our national interests and our way of life. We have got to put a stop to this.
Well, from everything I've heard, it's a money grab by these colleges and universities. They're getting paid a lot of money by the Chinese to give them slots in their institutions. But I want to switch gears now to the conversation that President Trump had with Russian President Vladimir Putin today. They spoke for more than an hour, and the president said that it was a good conversation, but not a conversation that will lead to immediate peace. President Putin did say, and very strongly, that he will have to respond to the recent attack on the airfields. Now, as a member of the Armed Services Committee, why do you think a ceasefire has been so elusive between Russia and Ukraine?
You know, I think one thing that I learned when I got to West Point is that the enemy gets a vote. And we have to understand that we've been so strategically weak for so long that Putin gets a vote in this. We are so used as Americans to determining the time and place when we're going to fight. And we have been able to coerce the rest of the world into bowing to our demands. That is no longer the case. And stemming from the fall of Afghanistan that President Biden just criminally allowed to have happen, America has never been weaker on the world stage, and President Trump is trying to dig us out of this. I think that he clearly understands that our strategic interests are systematically different than Ukraine's strategic interests. Ukraine wants Russia expelled from its territorial borders. America, what is in our strategic interest is to bifurcate the relationship between Russia and China, preventing them from massing military effects around the world at the same time in a way that we cannot handle. And so the best way to accomplish that is economically. President Trump is 100% pursuing our greatest strategic interests, which is to end this conflict today. But we have to understand the enemy gets a vote, and we may have to look at this differently if it continues to go on.
Well, as a former warfighter and now a member of Congress, my next question was going to be what advice you would give the president. But it sounds like you think he's doing exactly what he should be doing by threatening sanctions against Russia.
Yes, I think first and foremost, we have to understand we are not applying maximum sanction force on Russia right now. All of Europe is still sucking down Putin's gas. It doesn't have to be that way, but they are choosing convenience and low prices over actually doing the right thing for their own security, which is one of the reasons why President Trump is so frustrated with Europe. They are relying upon the United States to take care of their security when they have mortgaged their militaries for their entitlement state. President Trump is saying that has to stop. Europe has to start paying its fair share for its own defense, particularly towards either continuing, in their minds, a regional conflict that does not serve the strategic interests of the United States. Europe better wake up to this, because this war could continue, and it cannot continue with American involvement. That is not in our best strategic interests.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very clear. And the cost has been so high for both sides. But before I let you go, Congressman, I do want to get your take on President Trump's big, beautiful bill. Do you believe your Republican colleagues in the Senate will reach a workable compromise by that July 4th deadline set by the president?
I think they will, and I hope that they come in and actually make the bill a little bit more fiscally responsible. I think we've got great policy in the one big, beautiful bill. We've got everything from historic and permanent tax cuts, getting the permanence of law. Great President Trump's policies from his first term, getting permanence of law. We have truly transformational entitlement system reform and accountability. We're shutting down our southern border. We're rebuilding our military. And on top of that, we're unleashing our nation's ability to be energy dominant by reducing regulation on our energy sector. This has some absolutely wonderful conservative policy in it. But as Elon Musk and others have talked about, we are $36.3 trillion in debt. We're running a $1.8 trillion a year annual deficit. And although this bill does cut spending, it only cuts $1.6 trillion worth of spending in the 10-year budgetary window. So in that window, we're going to spend $87 trillion. We are snipping a tiny little hair off of that at $1.6 trillion.
Yeah.
We have to do better than that here in Congress if we are going to provide for the solvency of the United States of America moving forward.
Congressman, I have to go off script here and ask you real quick before you go. Your reaction to Hakeem Jeffries, your colleague, saying that he's going to out all of those ICE agents who wore masks while they were doing their jobs.
It's absolutely unconscionable, and we were talking about the virus that causes the fungus that causes head blight here. I think the Democrats have had head blight for an awfully long time, and they are not finding a cure. They are absolutely adrift on open water without a sail and without a rudder and without an anchor. And right now, it's truly unbelievable and unconscionable what their leadership is saying right now. They do not support the best interests of the United States of America. That's why we have got to run forward with this flag and give President Trump's policies the permanence of law. That's exactly what we're doing up here in Washington each and every day.
Appreciate that. Congressman Pat Harrigan, great imagery, and thanks for joining the show. Coming up next, another congressman, James Comer.